Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it and break it down. This is the IBFP's Q&A part 2. So let's just dig into all these questions. The first question from this Q&A comes from D. Jefferson, and this is his question. He basically states, okay, I have my stand on this subject, but I've been requested to inquire IBFP's stand on the matter determining an elite fighter. I understand who you beat may play a part in determining the status, but I say ultimately it comes down to the skill you display in fights. You can be an elite fighter in a hard-fought loss. You can still be a lucky bum with a knockout win. This is what IBFP thinks of Wilder 39 times over. Elite status depends on the skill you display, not who you beat or are able to beat, is my stand. Now, I'll be honest with you. Being an elite fighter is similar to being a pound-for-pound fighter. It goes on with a lot of things, and they're all subjective, and it pretty much depends on who you like and what style you like and what type of fighter you favor. So it depends on all of those things. But the one constant in pretty much everyone's, playbook when it comes to this has to be who you fight. If you're fighting the best, if you're fighting bums, that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think that Deontay Wilder, and he's a perfect example as an elite level fighter for the simple fact that it's not even about the skill that he displays. It's about the fact that he's not beating elite level competition. He's fought 39 bums. He fights bum after bum after bum. Now, the top 2 fights that he did fight against better competition, he had varied results. If you look at a Luis King Kong Ortiz, he went life and death with Luis Ortiz. A Luis Ortiz who's not an elite level fighter in his own right. He's a good fighter, a decent fighter, but not an elite fighter. He's never had a world championship. He's never had a signature win over elite or a top level fighter. So being that as it may, he went life and death with a 39-year-old Luis Ortiz who was on blood pressure medicine and who almost had Deontay Wilder out in that fight in the 7th round. So you have to understand that the display he put on with Luis Ortiz, while it was an entertaining fight, we don't believe that was enough to make him elite, because he's not beating an elite opponent and he went life and death with him. So you have to be honest and unbiased about it. Then when you look at the type of opponent he fought next with Tyson Fury, clearly lost. They robbed Tyson Fury. So you have to understand it's not even about that. So if Deontay Wilder came in, knocked out Tyson Fury, fought Anthony Joshua, knocked him out, and he's knocking out champions and elite level opponents, then at that point you have to say, well, Deontay Wilder's elite, regardless of what we think of his method and his style of fights. The fact that he's able to continuously beat elite level opposition, you have to give him credit. Deontay Wilder is not doing that. So it is dependent on who you beat. Ultimately, it has to be who's on your resume. Now, when you look at elite level opponents, now if you fight a bunch of B-level fighters, but they're all world champions, that's the only fighters that are put in front of you, then by that determination, you can still be elite by beating top level fighters in your weight class. They may not be elite opponents, but they may be solid, quality, good fighters who are world champions, and you're going division after division after division winning title, then I have to give you your credit for doing so. So you have to be honest and unbiased when it comes to that. But that's a great question, D. I appreciate that. And let's just jump to the next question. The next question comes from Derek Lee. Canelo versus Kovalev at 170 catch weight. What do you think of that, even though it probably won't happen? That's actually a good question, Derek. I thought about this fight a little bit. Now, Canelo Alvarez versus Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev has sparred Gennady Golovkin multiple times. These guys were sparring partners. And so you have to understand that from what we understand, as far as the rumors that were coming out of that camp when these two guys sparred each other, was that Triple G hurt Kovalev in sparring multiple times. So if Triple G can hurt Kovalev, then you also have to look at Kovalev's deficiencies, such as he's not strong to the body, and what Canelo does at an elite level is go to the body and put in body work. I think Kovalev, would get hurt and drop to the body against a Canelo Alvarez who's young, who's elite, who's in his prime, who's fast, and who's a body snatcher. I think Canelo would stop Kovalev to the body at some point in that fight. I think it would be a dangerous fight for Canelo, him being the much smaller man in stature compared to Kovalev and in weight. But you have to be honest that Kovalev just doesn't have the boxing ability or skill to compete with the Canelo Alvarez, and the fact that he's weak to the body is only going to worsen his chance of being able to get a good shot off on Canelo Alvarez. It's a great question, Derek. The next question is from P.O. Lee. How do you think Adam Kownacki will do against the top heavyweights at this moment, specifically Wilder, since he can clearly outbox him? Sorry for all the questions. No need to be sorry, brother. Ask the questions as many as you like. Now, to answer your question and break it down, we have to just be honest and unbiased. Now, if we look at Adam Kownacki versus, a Deontay Wilder, I think that'll be an interesting fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight for the simple fact that Wilder has the right hand that could put anybody down. And Adam Kownacki is not exactly an elusive fighter, but he's a very good, entertaining fighter. And Kownacki has top-level power that he keeps displaying, especially against a Gerald Washington. Got him out of there easy, while Wilder struggled with him at times and lost rounds to him. So you have to give Kownacki that type of credit against these type of opponents. I think Adam Kownacki has the potential to upset Deontay Wilder and could be a potential opponent for Deontay Wilder. I think Deontay Wilder's next few opponents, if he decides to continue to duck Anthony Joshua, will be, a Dominic Breazeale, Adam Kownacki, probably an Andy Ruiz, and then maybe even possibly a Dillian White if he can get him over to the States and get a big enough fight for him. So I think that these are the fights that he would use to avoid, and he'd try to fight Fury as many times as he can. So I think that's the route of Deontay Wilder if he continues to duck Anthony Joshua. But I think Kownacki has a chance to win, and I think it's a 50-50 fight. Great question. That's a great question. Let's just keep going. The next question is from P.O. Lee. Do you think Adrien Broner should have stayed away from 147 pounds after the Maidana fight? He clearly has no height, reach advantage, and seems to be outclassed in such a stacked division. I agree 100%. I think 147 is just not a division for Adrien Broner. It's not that Adrien Broner doesn't have the physical dimensions to compete. See, you don't have to be the tallest guy. You don't have to have the longest reach. You have to be willing to let your hands go. You have to be willing to get in there and mix it up. See, a lot of people forget that he dropped Sean Porter in the 12th round of their fight, and it wasn't about height or reach. It was simply about punching volume. Adrien Broner being able to throw enough shots to keep the fight going, to score enough to win rounds. And Adrien Broner is much too defensive in many fights. Therefore, he's going to struggle and have a problem against literally anyone he fights at 147. The reason why Adrien Broner was so successful in his career early on in his career is because he had the size, height, speed, and power advantage over smaller opponents. As he moves up in weight, he no longer has all those advantages. Although he still packs a good punch and he's still fast, he's still a good fighter. A lot of people say that Adrien Broner's trash. He has the dimensions to be a good fighter. He just does not do what he needs to do, make the adjustments, let his hand go, and that's what costs Adrien Broner time and time again. If Adrien Broner gets the right coach and listens to him and actually implements and makes the changes, he could be an interesting fighter to watch, but unfortunately, there's no evidence of that happening. That's a great question. The next question is from SwizzKid316. Hey, what's up, IBFP? Can you please tell everyone here to pay the $9.99 subscription to DAZN? They did a great job of making this fight. Please let's support the sport. Also, who is your favorite fighter of all time? It's a great question, SwizzKid. What's up, brother? I'll say that everyone should purchase DAZN. You get the first month free. The next, after that, $9.99. I think it's great. If you're a true boxing fan, if you truly love and support the sport, I think it only makes sense, especially to keep us away from pay-per-views of $70, $80, $90, and $100. I don't think anyone's interested in paying that. As far as my favorite fighter of all time, I have a lot of fighters that I enjoy watching. I wouldn't say I've had one particular of all time, but I will say that I enjoyed watching, Ali, even though it was before my time. I did enjoy watching the clips, highlights, and things like that of Muhammad Ali. I think he's a great fighter. Also like Sugar Ray. So there's, Roberto Duran. So, I like a lot of older fighters, their styles, what they brought to the table, but I wouldn't say I had a particular favorite overall. Great question, Swizz. The next question comes from Barker Ryder. What's up, Nuke? Remember, your number one fan, he knows the sport, made a video saying Spence beats Canelo via late round stoppage. LOL. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you see that fight playing out? I think, Canelo Alvarez stopped Spence easily within the first 5 rounds. Canelo's just too quick, too strong, too good, too great of a boxer. Canelo Alvarez is a truly special fighter, and there's absolutely no doubts about that. As far as he knows his sport, he needs to change his name to he don't know his sport, because, only someone that's trying to appeal to a particular fan base or fanboys would make those type of statements, because literally no one in boxing that really knows boxing will even make a ridiculous statement like that. Canelo is head and shoulders above Errol Spence Jr., and it's not even close. Also, Barker Ryder states, I see Canelo chopping him down, outboxing him, and giving him that Con Kirkland treatment by the 6th to 8th round. I think that's very likely, if not sooner, brother. But that's a great question. The next question comes from Swiss Kid once again, 316. Do you think Jacob's size and reach will make a difference in the ring against Canelo? I really don't think so, because he was way bigger than Triple G, and he couldn't even drop him. Yeah, he hurt him in some occasions, but he never came close to stopping him in that fight, and you can even argue that Canelo has a better chin and power than Little G. Hashtag Canelo wins. Now, at this point, I'm going to be honest and unbiased, which is with, I think Canelo wins the fight. I think it's a close fight, but I think Danny can also still win the fight because of the height and reach advantage. I think Danny Jacobs, if we're unbiased and we look at the fight against Triple G and Danny Jacobs, I think it was a very close fight. And I couldn't blame you if you had Danny Jacobs winning that fight. That could have easily been Danny Jacobs and Canelo over Canelo and Triple G. I think that, Triple G got the nod because he was the champion. But if we're going to be honest and unbiased, Danny Jacobs could have easily won that decision. I think both of these guys were neck and neck, or that could have been a legitimate draw. That's how close that fight was. I don't even think it was a horrible fight. I've never seen Danny Jacobs even really hurt in that fight. The only time is that when Danny Jacobs got dropped. And I don't even think that was a clear drop. It even seemed more of a push to me because Danny Jacobs got right up and kept competing. Triple G said Danny Jacobs was one of the best opponents he's ever faced, and that was for a reason, because he was the first guy to come in, outbox, and mark up, Triple G. Triple G still did his thing in the fight, but Triple G no longer looked like a killer, and he was the first guy to do that. So we have to give Danny Jacobs his props. He's going to come and cause problems for Canelo. This will not be an easy fight for Canelo Alvarez. I favor Canelo Alvarez to win the fight, but it's not going to be easy. Danny Jacobs has an absolute possible chance to upset Canelo in this fight. Do not write Danny Jacobs off. The height and reach advantage will win some rounds for Danny Jacobs. I just don't believe it's going to win enough to overcome Canelo. I think Canelo's main thing is doing the body work against Danny Jacobs, getting on the inside and chopping down that tree. I think that's what Canelo should focus on, and I think he'll be successful should he do that. Great question, Swizz. The next question is from Jing Yu. Please make a video about the upcoming fight against Erislandy Lara versus Brian Castano on March 2nd. Absolutely, brother. That fight is going to come, and we'll have a prediction for it. He also states, I think Lara's time is up, and his hit-and-run Olympics boxing style will finally get trashed by a fighter who can bring pressure and skill. I would love to hear your thoughts about this one, because I'm going to bet on Brian Castano to win. I think this is going to be a great fight. I haven't thought too much about who's going to win the fight, but I don't think Erislandy Lara gets enough credit. He has an eye-appealing style, a style that most people don't like to watch, because at times, it can just be too much of the sweet science, not aggressive enough. But at the same time, Erislandy Lara is an elite level boxer. In my opinion, I think he's a top level fighter. So, just because he has an unappealing style visually, aesthetically, he is a very, very good fighter. Brian Castano is a very good fighter as well. I think this will be a very interesting fight. I think it's an ascension type of fight. Can Brian Castano ascend over Erislandy Lara, build his name, and step up to the big boys in the division? Or does Erislandy Lara show that he's still a top-level fighter, still a guy that should sit atop the 154-pound division and should get that rematch with Jared Swift Hurd? I think that this is going to be a very interesting fight. I haven't decided on which way the fight's going to go. I need a little more time on that, brother, but I would definitely have a prediction for you. I think it's a very interesting fight. I can see both guys winning the fight for various reasons, but at this point, I'm just going to, hold my judgment until we get closer to the fight. Great question, though, brother. The next question comes from Oscar Vasquez. Why did Gervonta Davis get the WBA belt over Alberto Machado when Alberto had it first and Davis never beat him? It's a very interesting question, brother, and I can't 100% say why that happened, but I'll definitely get back to you with an answer on that. That's a very interesting question. That's just, that's some kind of boxing politics, but I can't get into it because I don't know much about how that whole situation occurred. I'd have to definitely look into it more. Great question, though, Oscar. The next question comes from Immortal Fox. How do you see Leo Santa Cruz versus Rivera, Ramirez versus Zepeda, and which of these boxers shows the most promise, and what do you think we can expect from Leo in the future? as he is a top 15 pound for pound boxer, multi-division world champion. I think Leo Santa Cruz is an elite level fighter. A lot of people don't give him the credit he deserves. I think that Leo Santa Cruz, he's already stated that him and Gary Russell is a fight that needs to happen. I think that he's going to do a very good job. I think he's going to win his next fight. I think that he's going to look impressive in it, and I think that he's going to fight Gary Russell Jr. in what will be a magnificent fight, an elite level, top level fight, because these guys are both top level fighters. Now, as far as Ramirez versus Zepeda, I think that's a very interesting fight. I think Jose Ramirez wins. I really like Jose Ramirez. I think he's a very special, talented fighter, and he has the perfect training camp with Robert Garcia. So I think he's going to be a problem for anyone. He has top-level, elite-level potential written all over him. That's a great question, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Okay. And our next question here comes from Kurt Santos. IBFP, you're the only one that knows boxing these days, and you're honest. If Latterdy can counter Spence, Mikey is going to have a field day. Do you think Mikey can really hurt Spence? Mikey does have power in both hands. Now, I really do think Mikey has the ability to hurt Errol Spence Jr. Everyone that's been in the ring with Mikey Garcia has said that this guy can hit, Chino Maidana, Brandon Rios, guy after guy after guy. And then a lot of guys at 154 and 160 pounds that Mikey Garcia is sparring with. These guys say this guy hits very hard. So, I believe Mikey Garcia is going to surprise a lot of people that night. But ultimately, the fight won't come down to just who got the power. It's going to come down to, is Mikey Garcia going to implement the right game plan, use lateral movement, head movement, and speed? He has to use it all in combination, because when you're facing a guy that much bigger than you, 2 weight divisions bigger than you, you have to put together the package. And Mikey Garcia is the type of fighter that we've always heard that does everything right. I think that Mikey Garcia can do everything right against, an Errol Spence Jr. who we see has his limitations. And that doesn't mean Errol Spence Jr. is not a good fighter, a strong fighter, or a big fighter. It just means that he has certain limitations that I believe Mikey Garcia can exploit. And I think that Mikey Garcia has the type of power that will carry up in weight. Even if it's not elite or as strong as Errol Spence, it's going to be strong enough to get the job done. In my opinion, it's going to be strong enough to deter Errol Spence after a few rounds. And the fact that his speed, his timing will all be precision and accurate is going to shock a lot of people on the night of that fight. You heard it here first. Just remember that. The next question is from Danny Laffey. Do you think it's fair to have boxers like Callum Smith and Jarrett Hurd in their current weight categories, because they have a major reach and size advantage against the opposition? Well, if you look at a guy like Errol Spence, you could say the same thing. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens in boxing. You have guys that people call weight bullies, but at the end of the day, if you can make the weight, there's nothing you can do about it. These guys are making the weight. They're going to fight at the weight. So at the end of the day, you have to overcome them with skill. And that's how you beat guys like that, because eventually Jarrett Hurd won't be able to make 154 pounds. He's desperate to move up, but he's desperate for a big fight first. He wants a huge payday before he moves up to 160, because he knows at 160, everybody in the top 5 is elite, and it's not going to be an easy job or a picnic trying to beat anyone up there. So definitely he understands that. And so, it is unfair to some degree, but at the end of the day, if you can make the weight, there's not much you can do about it, but have a more skilled guy come in and attempt to beat these guys. Great question, Danny. The next question is from Justin Valdez. Huge fan. Great work. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. Name your top 5 most skilled fighters ever, and top 5 of today, and how they would match up in a fight. Justin, I'm actually going to make a video about this, so I'll reserve that and my judgment on the top 5 most skilled fighters ever. I'll just give you a few. I think Manny Pacquiao was one of the most skilled fighters in his own way. I know a lot of people will say, well, Pacquiao this and that. Technically skilled, Pacquiao was just a special fighter in his own way, skill-wise, and I'll have to give him that. I think Floyd Mayweather Jr. may be the most skilled, one of the most skilled fighters I've ever seen, and so I have to give him that as well. Oscar De La Hoya. So I have to give a lot of these guys some of that skill, but I will definitely make a video about this, especially to that point, because a few people have asked me about this, and I want to give a well thought out answer. And as far as today, just to name a few, I think that Canelo Alvarez is one of the most skilled, Mikey Garcia and Terrence Crawford. So I think all of those guys are some of the most skilled, even Tyson Fury. So, those just a few. So I'll definitely make a video, respond to this specifically, because I think that this needs to be pointed out as far as skill, because it's not all about size in boxing. It's called boxing for a reason. It's a thinking man's game. But that's a very, very good question. Thank you very much, Justin. The next question is from Daniel B. Off topic, but what days do you take Q&A? And on what days do you upload them? Love your channel, by the way. Thank you very much, Daniel. As far as Q&As, we typically do Q&As randomly. Initially there were set days, but now at this point, we're just doing them whenever we can get in. So just, stay on the lookout for the polls. And if you see a poll and the Q&A not uploaded, then just go ahead and submit your question on the community page, and we'll get right back to you and answer your question. And it's typically within 2 to 3 days that we answer each and every Q&A poll. The next question, that is from Daniel B as well. Between Shakur, Teofimo, Ryan, and Devin, who do you see as being the best at the moment, and who do you see being the best between them in the future? That's a very interesting question. That should get its own video as well, but I'll say all these guys are right up there together. I'll slightly give the edge to Teofimo and Shakur Stevenson. Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson is probably being the slight edges over everyone, and I'll keep those guys probably at neck and neck. Teofimo has the power, Shakur has the skill. That doesn't mean Devin and Ryan aren't, not as good. They're just, I think that they're just maybe a tick below those guys. I just rate Teofimo and Shakur a tick above for different various reasons, because I look at the whole package in totality. But, as far as being the best in the future, who knows, man? These guys, any one of these guys could come up and be an elite level, top level fighter. I mean, who knows the longevity of these guys? I mean, maybe Ryan Garcia comes out and just, destroys everyone. When we really don't know at this point. We just haven't seen enough to be able to make that determination. But it's an enjoyable thing to watch these guys develop and grow. Great question, Daniel. The next question Daniel has is, what do you think of Oscar Valdez's performance last Saturday? Do you think Chepo Reynoso is improving him? I think his performance was interesting. And I think that since he's coming back, I believe off of, a broken jaw, that, Oscar Valdez, he needed some time to kind of get back into the swing of things. And, I think Chepo is going to get him right where he needs to be. He has a lot of skill, a lot of time and experience as far as working with these type of fighters. And I think Oscar Valdez is an elite level fighter. So I think that he's going to hone his skills, get him right. And, the big thing that Oscar Valdez was doing is when he got tired, he would leave his mouth open and breathe through his mouth. And, you have to keep your mouth shut and closed when you're boxing, because one good shot can break that jaw. Even though Valdez came and got the 7-round stoppage, I think that, he would look much better, because, he's fought an undefeated opponent who came to win. So, we can't take a lot away from him, because, he didn't take a tomato can to fight in his first fight back. He took a respectable undefeated opponent. And so you have to give him all the credit. But I think that Chepo and Eddie are going to get him right, and he's going to do tremendous in the future, and he's going to keep improvement. Thank you very much, Daniel. The next question comes from Boxing Monster. Can you list your top 5 most skilled fighters? And, we're going to definitely make a video about that, but I'll just give you a quick rundown. Canelo, Terrence Crawford, Tyson Fury. You have to give Erislandy Lara a go in that, and that's just to name a few. And these guys have serious skills. Mikey Garcia. So these are all top level, top skilled fighters. Thank you very much, brother. The next question is from E.M. Serrano. Jaime Munguia versus Jermell Charlo, or Gervonta Davis versus Teofimo Lopez. I think they're all good fights. Jaime Munguia versus Charlo, I think that'd be a great fight right now. I'd favor Munguia at this point. I think that Charlo's one-dimensional and Munguia's constantly making improvements. Tank versus Teofimo, I don't even think it's close. Teofimo by a landslide. The last question is from Marcus J. How'd you like the Super Bowl? Sorry about that, but the Super Bowl to me was absolutely a snooze fest. It was pretty boring, but it is what it is. But once again, it's the IBFP Q&A. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.